الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. It is not permissible for the one to rent the property in which he rented from someone else, from the landlord, for example, without his permission, the landlord's permission. Especially if it's in the contract, it's been written there and mentioned that not to be rented or even sublet any rooms, any part of the property without the consent or the permission of the landlord.
Excellent. Sheikh, does the transfer of money into the accounts of an individual constitute possession of the money, and therefore it is subject to the ruling of the money in possession?
If this amount of money has been paid to that individual's account, and they can retrieve and use and withdraw that money from their account, of course now it is in their possession anymore. Yeah.
Sheikh, is it permissible to swear in the course of the transaction even if one is saying the truth?
In overall, it is makruh and discouraged for the one to swear and say qasam, or say, let's say he wanted to sell something and he says wallahi billahi,
yes,
cost me that much, for example, I paid that much,
yes,
and so on. That's makruh. Unless there's something necessary and important, then of course the qasam is not makruh. But in such cases, it's not encouraged for the one to say the qasam. Yet, if it's to do with the haram or lying, of course this is not allowed. To lie with qasam at all. There's a narration in which states, Ya ma'ashar al-tujjar ittaqullah. So the Imam or the Ma'asum alayhi salam states to the people, to the merchants, that, you, the people of merchants, of trade, businessmen, fear Allah Azza wa Jal, وَتَنَاهُوا عَنِ الْيَمِينِ وَجَانِبُ الْكَذِبِ, and refrain from saying the qasam and swearing, and avoid the lying. In other words, the one should not use the qasam or swearing unless it's very necessary and is in the right position and time to use it.
Sheikh, according to his eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani, is it acceptable for you to pray your Mustahab prayers on your knees?
Yes, the Sayyid mentions that it's Mustahab, or it is permissible to pray all the Mustahab prayers. So you can pray your Mustahab prayers, your Nawafil, for example, in a seated position.
Okay.
So, for example, if you want to pray Namaz al-Isha, for example, Salatul Layl, and you're driving or you're on the train or the bus, you're allowed to pray while you're being in that position of seating and in that position and recite the Hamd and Surah and point towards the Ruku' and Sujood and so forth to the end of the Salah. You can do so with regards to the one, even by your own choice. I mean, you don't want to pray, while being, let's say, in a standing position, for example. You can pray in a seated position. The Sayyid mentions even if you are in a vehicle or a ship, so you can do so. There's no issue with it.
Sheikh, now a question coming in from the Facebook, I believe. Is having a franchise business that sells haram food like ham sandwiches permissible in a Western country? So they've managed to get a franchise of a big company, they have to sell certain foods. Are they allowed to sell ham, which is pork, in Western countries?
The ulama say that in overall, selling pork meat is not permissible, alongside with the alcohol at all.
Excellent. Another one here from the WhatsApp. What is the ruling on eating turkey, quail and mussels? Turkey is halal, quail is halal. Mussels, I don't think is, Sheikh. Now, mussels are like, it's from the ocean, it's a sea thing, and it's from a shell, I believe. They don't come, it's not a fish with scales.
If it's a fish without scale, it's not allowed, definitely. So that we have to see what type of fish is this.
Sheikh, is there pictures, if there's pictures of a person or animal in the room while you're praying, is your prayer batil?
The salah is not batil, rather it's makruh and discouraged, which means the rewards would be less thawab. And the best way to avoid this, you can cover the pictures
Yes.
with a curtain, or to pray in a room which has no pictures.
That's fine. Sheikh, is it permissible to bury a Muslim anywhere we can?
What is important that you are not allowed to bury the Muslim in a disrespectful place, like the garbage next to the bins, for example. Somewhere respectful for the Muslim.
Ahsan. Sheikh, anything that is separated from the body of the deceased, even if it is hair, fingernail or tooth, are we obliged to bury them with the deceased?
Yes, they must be buried with the deceased. Whatever is been cut off from the body of the deceased. For example, the latest bombings, let's say in Afghanistan, suicide bombings, for example, in Iraq, all the body parts should be gathered and buried with that deceased.
Ahsan. Sheikhna, I think this is a question that came in from one of our viewers. What is the evidence that chess is forbidden from the Quran and Hadith?
The question about the chess has been asked many times, and they ask for evidence. We have Quranic evidence and Hadith evidence. I've tried to find out the Hadith and the Quran. Of course, the Quran has been given the tafsir by Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. We take the tafsir and the ta'wil and exegesis of the Quran from Ahlul Bayt salamullah alayhim. Here's a riwayah, of course, Hadith from Kitab al-Kafi, volume 6. And Zayd al-Shaham. Zayd al-Shaham is a companion of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. He says, سألت أبا عبد الله أي الصادق عليه السلام. He asks the Imam عن قول الله عز وجل. He asks the Imam about the meaning of this holy verse in the Quran. واجتنبوا الرجس من الأوثان واجتنبوا قول الزور. So he asks the Imam about the meaning of so stay away from the abomination of idols and away from perjury. The ayah is in Surah number 22 verse 30. واجتنبوا الرجس من الأوثان واجتنبوا قول الزور. The Imam عليه السلام replies, الرجس من الأوثان الشطرنج وقول الزور الغناء. The Imam says the abomination of idols is chess and perjury is songs. So alhamdulillah, we have now two words in a verse in the Holy Quran which forbids the chess by the tafsir of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and forbids songs and music, which is the songs ala kulli hal, which has been played in nightclubs and so forth. Very clear by the Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam, by the Ma'soom, and his words and his kalam is hujjah, is proof upon us. The second hadith عن الفضيل, the Fudayl also asks the Imam Abu Ja'far al-Baqir alayhi salam. He asks the father of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, عن هذه الأشياء التي يلعب بها الناس. These things in which people play with, the games that they play with. And then he brings the names of these games. النرد والشطرنج. So he mentions the chess in this narration. فقال, then the Imam continues in the hadith, فقال عليه السلام, the Imam replies, إذا ميز الله بين الحق والباطل. If Allah Azza wa Jal differentiates between the true and the falsehood, في أيهما يكون, in which section would be the chess, for example? Where would you put the chess? In the true section or the falsehood section? This companion replies, قلت مع الباطل. Of course, the chess would be with the falsehood. فقال عليه السلام فما لك وما للباطل. The Imam replies سلام الله عليه, so what do you have to do with the falsehood? In other words, the chess is with Yazid, and the Quran and the supplication and the akhlaq is with Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. We have to be careful. When the chess is mentioned, then of course falsehood is mentioned as well. This is the nas, sarih nas, a clear statement from the Ma'soom and the Quran, in which was interpreted and tafsir by the Ma'soom, that الرجس من الأوثان, the abomination of idols is chess. Be careful. So we have to make sure that we stay away from these games, even if we think that there's nothing wrong with it. At least as a precaution, احتياط, avoid it, in order that you don't stand before Allah Azza wa Jal in the Qiyamah and to be questioned about playing chess. That there were clear ahadith that they were forbidden. So we try, inshallah, to follow the words of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam with this regard, and stay away from any games in which they are forbidden by Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam.
Ahsan. Sheikhna, for girls, is it okay to dress in a fashionable way but still be completely modest? Loose, long clothing, etc., like wearing pretty colors or clothing with a print on it?
You see, for girls and even for the women in overall, it is not permissible that for them to wear something that attracts the opposite gender, in which is eye-catching. It could be a hijab, but it's attractive. Whatever the urf or the norm would say that this clothes of this woman is attractive, attracts the eyes, makes her beautiful, then of course it's not allowed to be worn.
Okay.
So one should be careful.
Awesome. Sheikh, a question from the WhatsApp. If your cat comes onto the prayer mat while you are praying, can you continue to pray or should you start from the beginning? So you're praying Salah, the cat just walked in front. Do I continue or should I abandon and pray later or something?
And some would just remove the cat from the prayer mat and continue your Salah. There's no issue with it.
Okay, Ahsan. Also, is it permissible to be part of a temporary marriage with a woman who's known for adultery if no other woman is available and the person is in desperate need of marriage?
As I've said before, it is severely discouraged. The karaha shadida, if not some would say, is haram to have such relationship with such woman in which has a bad reputation and could be carrying disease as well. La samahullah. So one should avoid and refrain from such relationship.
Ahsan. Thank you, Sheikhna. Sheikhna, are we allowed to touch the translated words of the Quran in other languages? Now, His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani, he has a fatwa on this. What does he say?
The Sayyid mentions that yes, if it's in different languages, then the one can touch, yes.
I see. Sheikhna, are the stories of the Holy Quran real or are they just meant to be morally supported and to help the Prophet, peace be upon him, and his pure family?
Well, definitely they are real stories. These are the words of Allah Azza wa Jal, revelation, wahi. In some of the verses we read, in, for example, Surah number 3, Ayah 62, Allah states, إِنَّ هَذَا لَهُوَ الْقَصَصُ الْحَقِّ. This is the story of truth. Allah doesn't say something untrue. Allah is the haqq. The second ayah in Surah 12, Ayah 3, Allah states, نَحْنُ نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ أَحْسَنَ الْقَصَصِ. We narrate to you the most accurate history. Allah Azza wa Jalla brought these stories so that we learn a lesson from the past history, so we don't commit the same sins and wrongdoings of those past nations and communities. We try to learn that we become pious and believers in Allah Azza wa Jal, and do not disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His orders, in which would bring to us the felicity and happiness in this world and in the hereafter.
Sheikhna, is it mustahab to be silent in the gathering in which the Holy Quran is being recited through loudspeakers?
Yes, indeed.
It's not mentioned if it's someone, a qari reciting, or if someone's playing an MP3 CD or something.
In overall, it's mustahab for the one to
remain silent.
The Quran states with this regard in Surah 7, Ayah 204, وَإِذَا قُرِئَ الْقُرْآنُ فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ وَأَنصِتُوا لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. When the verse of the Holy Quran has been recited, be silent and listen to these verses. لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. May you be, the mercy would pour in you. So we seek Allah's mercy when listening to Holy Quran. We try to learn from these verses. And remember, for example, the adab, if it's ayah of adab, and ask Allah Azza wa Jalla forgiveness. And if it's ayah of the paradise, we ask Allah's paradise and thawab, and so on. So we try to learn from the Holy Quran all these lessons.
Sheikhna, hello. Fantastic. Hello, if someone is affected by black magic, what can they do to get rid of it? And does it really affect someone who doesn't believe black magic can do them harm? Thank you. That's from the WhatsApp.
There are ad'iyah and some of the verses in which tries to repel.
Yes, Surah Nas is what recommended to recite.
Yes, the four quls. قل يا أيها الكافرون قل هو الله أحد قل أعوذ برب الفلق and قل أعوذ برب الناس. Try to recite them. And there are some ta'weez. They would write it, they would put in a pocket, for example. There are people who are specialists in this field. Of course, not everyone. You have to find somebody who is pious and not to trick you and cheat to try to basically take money from you for this purpose. There are believers in which ulama would have knowledge in this field.
Sheikh, at what age is a person not under their parents' rule? Is one at the age of if one at the age of 21 is allowed to do anything they want to, being that it is lawful, or without telling their parents?
It's morally, it's something praiseworthy and respectful if somebody goes to his parents and asks their opinion, their suggestion, because at the end of the day, the parents have years of experience in life. Be it with marriage, with travel, with moving to another country, for example, whatever is the purpose, it's good to ask the elderly in the family. That's very important.
Awesome.
For their well-being, for their happiness in this life.
That was from WhatsApp. Sheikh, I think whoever sent this question, you've got the best person to answer this question, honestly. If one of the opportunities to live in an Islamic state rather than a non-Islamic state, should they consider to live in an Islamic state or not? Sheikh, you've had the experience of actually living in Muslim countries and also in the West and so forth. So, the brother or sister is asking, if you have the opportunity to live in an Islamic state, should you go for it or not?
Well, with today's age, I mean, the situation in both places are worsening. You know, even in our own Islamic countries, there's corruption, there's deviation. A lot of things are happening now. Many people are leaving religion, leaving Islam, or at least leaving the practice of the obligatory acts, wajibat. So anywhere you can go, you can be. If you're able to change that community, no matter if it's in the West or the East, that's great. That's a credit. Try to go and change that community. Otherwise, the fasad, the corruption is everywhere. ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس. The fasad, the corruption, has been spread on the land and in the sea due to what people have committed and performed. So we have to try, guide people anywhere, everywhere.
Awesome. Sheikh, a question from the YouTube. Assalamu alaikum, my brothers.
Assalam.
How should one maintain his beard as a Muslim? I see some brothers shave their moustache. Is this correct? If so, much should we trim our moustache, and how long should we keep it? How much should we trim our moustache, and how long should we keep it?
Basically, it is wajib for men to keep their beard, the minimum in which can be seen when they are face to face. When they meet face to face, they can say this individual has beard. You know, so that is the minimum required. Mustaches, there's no issue. One can keep or shave it. That's fine. But what is important that you're not allowed as a man to shave your beard. You have to keep the minimum in which can be seen face to face.
Nice.
That's the minimum required.
Thank you. Inshallah, we're going to go to the Shia Plus video, inshallah. Let's see what's going to be happening today on the Shia Plus video.
استغفر الله واتوب اليه. نويت ان اصلي صلاه المغرب 3 ركع قربة الله تعالى. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Wait, I forgot to do takbirat al-ihram before starting prayer. Is my prayer valid or do I have to start again?
Fantastic there, young Yasser. Sheikhna, takbirat al-ihram, if you miss it, should you continue with your prayer or should you start from the beginning?
Takbir and the initial takbir of the salah, to start the salah with, to open the salah with, is a fundamental element and rukun of the salah.
Yes.
Without it, the salah is batil. So the brother needs to repray.
Unfortunately, I have to
repeat the
start from
salah.
the beginning. Sheikh, a really good question here from the WhatsApp. Is sending la'na on the first three, I'm assuming it's to do with the first three caliphs, in private, not in public, in private, is it wajib?
The wajib is the bara'ah itself, because we have wilaya and bara'ah. We must believe in both. The bara'ah and the wilaya is wajib as part of our aqidah and belief. Yes, the tawalli, tabarri, which is the practice, is part of the furu' ad-din, which is also wajib. La kulli hal, the one should, and somehow, even in private, yes, do la'in, that's fine. But you have to make sure that you keep this, the state of, as you have the state of tawalli, you have to have the state of tabarri as well. In anyhow that shows that you're actually performing this act. Now by the la'in, by rejecting those who killed Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam somehow. I mean, in somehow you have to have this aqidah in yourself. When it's needed, of course, you have to show it when it's needed.
Sheikhna, every Muslim is a citizen of a Muslim country because the Islamic countries in their entities are a single Islamic country, and there is no difference between an Arab and a non-Arab in that respect. Is it permissible to deport the Muslim because they do not belong to the specific Muslim country?
Well, it is not permissible for the one to deport a Muslim to another country. Sadly, we have now restrictions between the Muslim countries, borders, passports. When the EU, just 70 years ago, came up with the idea that we remove this border between each other in Europe and to become one currency, and even without passport checkings. So sadly, we as Muslims followed the procedures of restricting ourselves with passports, with borders, with visas. Sadly, I mean, you're a Muslim, when you go to Hajj, you have to have visa. Ala kulli hal. So yes, sometimes we have to learn from the West, sadly.
Indeed.
Sadly.
Sheikhna, what is the Islamic viewpoint on torture that is practiced today in prisons in the Muslim world?
Well, torture is not allowed at all. It's forbidden. This is part of the dhulm, oppression against the people and the humanity. There's a hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. He says, أوحى إلي من وراء حجاب ما أوحى, that Allah revealed to me from His unseen. He revealed to me, and this is hadith Qudsi, as they say, hadith Qudsi, unofficial of Allah's words. يا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله من أذل لي وليا فقد أرصد لي بالمحاربة. The one who harms or hurts a wali, a believer, a pious believer, then he has prepared a war against me. وَمَنْ حَارَبَنِي حَارَبْتُهُ, and the one who is in war with me, I will be in war with him as well. So we are not allowed to torture or to imprison the believers in this way.
A question here from one of the viewers. Assalamu alaikum, I have a question. If an individual was breastfed by a different person other than the mother, would that child become mahram to the woman and all his children, or just the child that had the same milk?
We have to see how many times this child was breastfed, the duration, and so forth. And yes, of course, he becomes mahram to
the mother,
the mother and the sister.
And also the mother, the wet nurse, and the children of the wet nurse as well.
Yeah, I mean, what is important that they have to follow the conditions of this procedure.
Sheikhna, I am married to a woman that lives by herself and she is completely dependent on herself. We are married for 1 year and we have still long time for our marriage to end. However, we started to have some problems together and we won't believe that we cannot live with each other anymore. I wanted to know, is it possible to end our marriage before the time that we agreed on by me saying the word that she is divorced? So I think here there's a temporary marriage here because there's a time limit, and by this individual mentioning the word divorced, can they end their marriage contract?
There's no divorce in the temporary marriage. So what is there if they want to end the time
Agreement.
of the marriage, to let it off, to say to the woman, وهبتك, so that I let it off.
Oh, okay, I'll give you back
The
your
coming
time.
few days or few months, whatever, is duration.
Yes,
So to inform that, خلاص,
I see.
وهبتك.
I see. Another question here from the WhatsApp, Sheikhna. At home when we are praying alone, is adhan and aqama wajib or is aqama enough?
The iqama is very encouraged. If the one can at least do the iqama, that would of course encouraged. But the adhan is mustahab as well. If one can perform both of them, that would be great as well.
Sheikhna, what is the opinion of the Sharia about television or press conference or press confession taken from the prisoner?
Well, it has no value. There's a narration again by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In a long hadith, I just take part of it. He says, "Al-muflisu min ummati man ya'ti yawm al-qiyamah." The one who is bankrupt is the one from my nation, from my ummah, is the one who comes on the day of judgment bisalat wa siyam wa zakat. He comes on the day of judgment and he's got prayers he prayed, fast he fasted for long years, and he paid zakat as well. وَيَأْتِي, so he comes on the day of judgment, this individual, he prayed, he gave charity, for example, whatever of good deeds he made. But he comes on the day of judgment, قَدْ شَتَمَ وَقَذَفَ هَذَا. He insulted and slandered this individual. وَأَكَلَ مَالَ هَذَا. And he has usurped the wealth of this individual.
I see.
وَسَفَكَ دَمَ هَذَا. And he has spilled the blood of this individual. وَضَرَبَ هَذَا. And he has beaten this individual.
Yes.
فَيُعْطِي أو فَيُعْطَى هَذَا مِنْ حَسَنَاتِهِ. So they take the hasanat and the good deeds of this individual who prayed for 50, 60 years. Because he insulted, slandered, tortured this individual, they take the hasanat of this oppressor and they give it to this madloom. وَهَذَا مِنْ حَسَنَاتِهِ. This is how they treat him on the day of judgment.
I see.
In other words, he will lose all his hasanat, or most of it, or many of his hasanat would be lost. Why? Because he insulted, he oppressed an individual. And of course, if he runs out of hasanat, where would he go? God forbid.
I see. Sheikh, a question here from the YouTube. Please, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Please, how do I reply to the question, why do you Shias pray on clay with Quranic proof?
There is a verse in the Holy Quran about Ashab al-Kahf in which states that let's then take their graves as masjid. And of course, with regards to the praying on the earth, we have a hadith with this regard, in which the Holy Prophet and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam mentioned that جعلت لي الأرض مسجدا وطهورا, prophetic hadith, that the earth became for me as a means of prostration and purification, which is the tayammum. جعلت لي الأرض مسجدا وطهورا. A hadith with this regard mentioned as well. I have to refer back to the sources.
Inshallah.
But in overall, we have in this regard. What is their proof? I mean, let's do the vice versa. What is the proof that I'm allowed to pray on the rug or carpet? What is the proof? That is not earth.
Yes.
The Prophet says, جُعِلَتْ لِيَ الْأَرْض مَسْجِدًا. The earth is masjid, is prostration. Ard means the rock, the pebbles, the sand, the soil, whatever is known to be earth. So how come you pray on the carpet? How come you pray on the rug, especially expensive rugs, for example? Where is the evidence? Bring us the evidence that you can pray on the rugs.
I see. Inshallah, thank you. Sheikh, we're going to go to a short break. Join us after the break as we continue our discussion with your questions here on Ahkam SOS. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
I have a question regarding keeping pictures of
Is it
scholars
permissible
at
to
home.
plant trees by or
Was
over
Islam
the
establish
graves?
based on peace and
Is it permissible
non-violence.
to collect donations for charity projects from
Is it
individuals?
permitted to consume canned food imported from non-Muslim
Is there
countries?
an issue for men looking at non-Muslim women?
To have your questions answered live, call in on +44 2035 150199 or WhatsApp us on +44 7415 092155. Alternatively, you can also email us on Ahkam SOS at imamhussein.tv.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. If you have a question you'd like to ask, please send it in via the WhatsApp, the email address ahkamsos at imamhussein.tv. Give us a call in the studio 0203 515 0199. If you're watching via YouTube or Facebook Live, put your questions in the comment sections. The technical team will be able to send it to us, and inshallah, me and the Sheikh will be able to discuss and answer any of your questions. Follow us on the social media. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram. Also, we have opened a TikTok account at Ahkam SOS. Please follow, and inshallah keep up to date with all of our clips and all of our questions, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum.
Sheikhna, another question here, and that is, should I prioritize my Qadha prayers over Mustahab Amal on certain special nights?
I mean, if the one is able to pray his Qadha ASAP, that would be, of course, encouraged and credit. Mustahab is there always available. We have the namaz shab every night. You have the nawafil of the prayers every day. 51 rak'ah
Yes.
out of 17 in which they are wajib. So you have enough time to basically pray your qadha. So try to do it as soon as possible. That's better. In which you can secure that you have done your qadha, because God knows what's happened to us. Especially with the COVID situation, that one might, at a very short time might, ala kulli hal, God forbid, depart from this world. We never know when.
I see. Salam, Sheikhna. If someone doesn't follow Judaism, Islam, Christianity, but does believe in one God, but too specific to the holy books, is he part of the Ahlul Bayt? I think it means, but not to a specific holy book. Is he part of the Ahlul Bayt? And this is from WhatsApp.
The Quran states, "Inna ad-deena 'inda Allahi al-Islam." The only religion and faith with Allah is Islam. You have to submit to Islam exactly the way that the Holy Prophet ﷺ brought this religion. Otherwise, it's not accepted. فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ.
Salam alaikum, Sheikh. Another things from the WhatsApp as well. What fish is halal and what isn't?
Basically, the rule is that the fish with the scales would be halal, and to be brought out by the human's hands or net or any tool outside the water, no matter if it's a Muslim or non-Muslim, as long as they've brought the fish out of the sea or the river or the water or the pond alive and by the hands of the human being, that would be halal, and there's no issue with it, with the exception in which the prawns are also halal.
Yes.
And not the crabs or the squids and so forth.
Another question here, Sheikhna. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
It is very common for us to eat eggs from a chicken. Is this the only eggs that are halal for us to eat? Or is it that we can have any egg from any halal animal?
There is actually a sign given in the fiqh about what types of birds you can eat and what types you can't eat. Ala kulli hal, there are signs for it. So you have to make sure that you find out the exact signs of those birds in which you can also eat and its eggs as well. Otherwise you can't eat it, and even its eggs are haram.
I see.
So there are specific signs in the fiqh mentioned.
Sheikhna, assalamu alaikum. Is caviar halal?
If you mean by caviar,
The fish eggs, the black fish,
if
very
it's-
expensive.
Again, if it's from the non-scales fish is haram, from the
Scale
scale
fish
fish is halal.
is halal to accept.
Exactly.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Salam.
If there was no turba available, can you do sujood on the floor? Example, carpet.
You have to make sure that you look for something other than the ones which are, because you can't pray on edible items such as food, or the ones that you can wear them, like the clothes, for example. So you have to find a piece of wood, a paper, for example, other means of you can pray on. Otherwise, you can't pray on the carpet. Try to find something in your pockets here, there, to pray on.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalam.
I work in a company and supposed to shake hands with customers, male or female. If I don't do that, it would be considered impolite, and there is a risk of losing my job and suffering the aftermath. What should I do?
It is forbidden for a male to shake hand with the opposite gender, the females, who do not have any, let's say, marital relationship, or even as being relatives, such as the mother, sister, auntie, and so forth. The one should refrain from shaking hand. If that was a requirement, then he needs to wear gloves and shake hand with the gloves. That is the only solution. Otherwise, they can't.
A very controversial question here now, Sheikh. Is invocation of the jinn spirits with a view to solve the problem of the faithful permissible?
And the ulama in overall say that if there is no harm, the one that they can, but I want better to avoid it. But if there's no harm on himself or the others, there's no issue with it. But the problem with the jinn is that it's a different creation than us. So one should try to avoid getting involved in these types of creations.
Sheikhna, I mean, like, I've got a personal question on this. Like, do we actually, or like the community itself feels that there is a lot of what we call, going towards the jinn and so forth, and black magic and then things like that? I mean, how real is it? Because I've spoken to a lot of ulama, and they say a lot of it is exaggerated. A lot of it is actually someone's actually going through mental health issues, or someone's going through depression, and they use these as an excuse that the black magic has happened on them, or that there's a jinn being possessed in them, or this and that. But the reality is that they're just medically, they're not well at the moment, and they're maybe going through something. Is that the case you feel in the community, or do you think that no, there is real black magic and invocation of jinns and stuff?
I mean, I would always and initially give advice that they seek medical advice in this situation, to see a psychiatric, mental health unit, for example, and so forth, before they actually go to these other means of treatments, spiritual treatments, for example. But there are, of course, people who deal with these issues through the Quran, through the dua. They write a dua, for example, of that individual. There are people, pious people, ulama, who would be able to somehow help to heal this to an extent, and to repel this evil from them.
Question from YouTube, Sheikhna. Please, what is the name of the reduced Taraka Salah performed when one is on a journey? How is it performed? I believe that's Salat al-Qasr. And yes, Sheikhna, how is it performed? So first of all, there's a qualification to perform your Salah al-Qasr, which is you have to travel 13 miles in one direction away from the borders of your town, your hometown. So if you've done 13 miles now your Salah has qualified to become Qasr. It is wajib to pray Qasr Salah. How does that affect your Salah? When your Salah becomes Qasr, what happens?
Basically, if you travel 44 kilometers from the border of your city, so you have to calculate from the borders of your city 44 kilometers, as you've said, 13 miles and something, about 7 miles, return. If you have such a journey, then of course the Salah would be Qasr. When you leave the borders of your city, in which you don't see anymore the walls and the houses of that city, and there's something called Haddu Tarakhus, a place where you can now start to break your fast and pray Qasr.
Yes.
And pray Qasr means that you have to shorten your prayers, which is the Dhuhr, Asr and Isha. The Maghrib and the Subh remains as is. So the ones which are 4 becomes 2. And of course, if you're fasting, you may break your fast.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Final question from the WhatsApp. Given the sensitivity of the Prophet's hijrah journey, what were the circumstances that led to the first Khalif of the mainstream to be with the Holy Prophet in this historical journey?
There are lots of interpretations with this regard that, ala kulli hal, try to avoid him going back to inform, for example, the mushrikeen that the Prophet is in this location, for example. Lots of interpretation. The one should go back to the books of history and to see what the writers and authors have said about with this regard, anyhow.
Ahsan. Thank you very much, Sheikhna. Thank you to all of you for joining us on this episode of Ahkam SOS. If you have a question you'd like to send in, please send it in via the WhatsApp, the email. If you're watching on Facebook Live or on YouTube, put your questions in the comment section. And inshallah, on the next episode, which will be on Wednesday, 6:30 on Imam Hussein TV, we will be able to discuss and answer all of your questions. See us on our social media, follow us on TikTok, and inshallah, have a great week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
We question our daily position, seeking answers and definitions. Get the queries off your chest with Ahkam SOS.
Whilst this winter many of you will be enjoying the festive season, Afghanistan is going through a crisis. Every winter the weather will reach temperatures as low as -18 degrees Celsius. With little finances and homes not adequate enough to keep the heat in, many families struggle during this season. The elderly are vulnerable and physically challenged to fight the cold during these days and nights. Young children must walk through snow and ice in order to get to school and return to a chilly and bitter cold home. Imam Hussein Development and Relief Foundation are determined to help. We will be providing households with coal to burn throughout the winter. $150 is all we need. $150 will be enough to provide heat and warmth for one household for the whole of winter. That's $150 for 4 months. You can donate via PayPal, bank transfer, or visit us at www.ihdrf.org to make a donation. Our Imams tell us the best of you are those who help those who are desperate. Help us spread the warmth. Thank you.
Are you in court for raping English girls? Remember? You're here defending the paedophile. I'm here defending your dad. Women are here defending the paedophile. You're here defending.
We don't need a TV channel because we've got mosques.
We have Islamic centres that are always open.
We have schools teaching Islam.
Hijab is part of a school uniform.
Islam has come and it's established here in the West.
And everyone's happy. They love us, our food, our fashion,
our culture.
The media is always on our side.
We've got plenty of English speakers, plenty of English books,
and plenty of places to go and learn in the English language.
Let's be real.
Let's get active. Be more involved. www.imamhusseinfree.tv.
Imam Hussein Media Group is a virtual university that works on a global scale to spread the true message of the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt's peace and blessings be upon them. Imam Hussein TV was established 10 years ago in the city of Isfahan, Iran. We work to cover all aspects of religion, Islamic jurisprudence, politics, philosophy, and many more, and aim to bring the public's attention to the righteous Islamic sect, Shia Islam. Our ultimate goal as a media group is to convey the interpretations of the Holy Quran, as well as the traditions and knowledge of the Holy Prophet and his progeny, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon them. Our objectives are to protect and safeguard the Shia youth from the destructive impact of immoral ideologies, standing up against injustice by documenting the oppression of Shia across the globe, as well as encouraging peace and unity amongst the Muslims. To reach our aims and serve the Muslim Ummah, we require a budget that would cover all the expenses for our productions, allowing us to work on different projects. Imam Hussein Media Group is a crowd-funded project. We have no sales nor do we charge for our services. We solely rely on monthly payments, financial contributions, donations, religious alms and generous gifts. The expenses of each production varies depending on the type of project and the style of filming. There are many elements to a production that requires time and capital. The producer must analyze the costs of the venue hire, equipment, transport, feature fees, set design, staff support and further additional costs. The Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him and his family, narrated, "The best of people is he from whom people benefit." It is up to you to help the Muslim Ummah come together and help guide the youth in remaining on the correct path of Islam. To take part in this global conquest and to spread the message of Imam Hussein, peace and blessings be upon him, please visit www.imamhussein3.tv or give us a call on +44 0203 515 0199. You can also contact us via WhatsApp, Telegram, SMS, or even email us on donate@imamhussein.tv. Let's work together hand in hand to elevate the faith of our Shia youth today.
When a person cries for Imam al-Hussein, this tear that comes out of the eye is an expression of the love and the mahabba and the mawadda for Imam al-Hussein, which is in the heart. Therefore, the tear is an expression of this firmly deep-rooted love that lies in the heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made the emotion of love so powerful in that if it is manifested through a tear, this tear has the potential to cause revolutions that will cause earthquakes and bring the thrones of the tyrants crashing down to ash and dust.
اللهم إني أسألك الأمان 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 يوم لا ينفع مال ولا بنون إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم. أنت المولى وأنا العبد وهل يرحم العبد إلا المولى. أنت المالك وأنا المملوك وهل يرحم المملوك إلا المالك. أنت العزيز وأنا الذليل وهل يرحم الذليل إلا العزيز.